call out and speak on injustice when you see it. This is not just a fight for us. This is just a fight for equality in general. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to YBI, where we discuss opinions and strategies on how to better your financial selves. Roman and Zion back in the building. Happy Juneteenth.
Yo, let's go.
What's happening?
How you doing?
I'm living the dream, my guy, and I feel like this is it's a blessing, really, because we have the opportunity to post and use our platform to tell people really about Juneteenth and to, really bring some light to what happened so many years ago. And I feel like that's exactly what we're going to do today. It's going to be a little bit different, and we're going to figure out exactly how and why, what happened over the last several years, what Juneteenth is, Black Wall Street. We're going to get into all of that.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, and I feel like it's appropriate, obviously, since today is Juneteenth. We should shed some light on that. How you feel?
Pretty good. I'm ready to talk about this. This is definitely more of a conversational piece for us to kind of do, but it's gonna be some history, gonna be some of our own kind of ideas, just kind of going through it. But I mean, this is gonna be a good one. It's gonna be our best one yet.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a lot of good ones. So before we hop in, like, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. Today is the day for you guys to be more and more aware of history. History wasn't my favorite subject, but the older that I got, the more that I realized that I can look into what I want to look into. African-American history was just one of those things. And today being a day that marks such a strong turning point for African-American people, we just felt that it was appropriate for us to touch on and shed some light. So Juneteenth, what is it? Juneteenth was really the day when federal troops in 1865 got to Galveston, Texas, to really make sure that the Emancipation Proclamation was put into full effect for all African-American people, slaves at that time. So it was really 2 years before that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. But it took 2 years for the entire United States to fully recognize that. So June 19th was really the day that made it clear that all slaves were to be freed. And that's what the history really is in a nutshell. It took so many years for everybody in the US to acknowledge, let's say, because it wasn't really, done correctly, but to acknowledge that slavery was no longer going to be a thing. Slavery was abolished and all African-American people would be free. That's Juneteenth, and that's what the celebration is all about. So it's not just a African-American holiday. It's not just this is a world-renowned holiday that should be recognized the same as, Memorial Day or Veterans Day. It's like, hey, finally African-American people were supposed to be seen as equals in terms of legalities, in terms of the law, and in terms of what everybody else would see.
It was a start. Yeah, it was a start of being like, okay, we're free now. We can do everything you can do, this, that, and the third. As we know, that wasn't true, but that was the day.
So from there, there were a bunch of years where African-Americans started leaving. They started, I've read several stories and I watched several videos, and there are so many that you guys can go watch on the History Channel, on Vox, VOX, on, what's this other one? There's the TulsaWorld.com. There's so many things that you can read up on in terms of Juneteenth. But one of the things that we wanted to touch on today specifically was Black Wall Street and how Greenwood and the neighborhood in Tulsa was affected in terms of Black Wall Street and Black finance. So Roman, navigate us through a little bit of what Black Wall Street is. Give me some history, bro.
So basically, right after Juneteenth and basically the emancipation, there was a time in African American history called the Great Migration. It was a migration of African Americans from the South moving up to the North, cities like Chicago, New York, Oklahoma, or such as states, Illinois, New York, Oklahoma, places like that, just heading more north to get away to try to start new life and new businesses and get this new kind of opportunity in America that they did not have before. That led to a few neighborhoods kind of growing up and kind of moving up there. But one of the first, probably biggest ones for African American history was Tulsa, Oklahoma. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was O.W. Gurley, who purchased 40 acres by himself. I know a lot of people always heard that why can't I think of the name? Reparations, to get your 40 acres and a mule, he went out and he bought his own. And from that 40 acres, he started up Greenwood, which is named after a town in Mississippi, where then became the Black District in Oklahoma and Black Wall Street. From there, businesses grew, mainly owned by, pretty much all owned by African Americans. He would loan out money to African Americans to start their businesses there. And basically, it was a inner growth. It was an investment in self for that community, where they built up each other to then have a profitable and wealthy community. Now, of course, with that going on in the state of America where we still were, that was not necessarily seen as something that everyone necessarily liked in the area around it. So what happened to Greenwood kind of following that was there was a situation where, similar to kind of Emmett Till, there was a woman who said that she was assaulted or catcalled by African man who lived in Greenwood, which then led to a 2-day massacre in Greenwood that killed hundreds and burned down thousands of homes, which then destroyed Black Wall Street as we kind of know it as today, and the Tulsa Massacre. Now, ever since then, a lot of people are like, well, what happened to Black Wall Street kind of after that? And it's been 100 years since then. That was May 31st, 1921. So we're about a little bit over 100 years past that. And even to this day, you really don't see much of those remnants kind of around anymore. And basically what happened there, it was almost kept shut. Most people didn't really start hearing about the Tulsa Massacre until years down the line, if anything was kind of there. But so that was pretty much in a nutshell, or I guess a quick little intro into what Black Street kind of was. But it was at the time one of the most affluent, and if not one of the biggest growing communities in Greenwood for a African American society, where you never really even saw that in no real city, because even in New York or Chicago or a lot of other cities were kind of already growing or being built. Greenwood, in a sense, was self-built and was built by Black people to basically be a wealth center and a wealth hub for African Americans.
Exactly. That's pretty much exactly what happened. You know, there was a rush of there was oil rush pretty much, which got people to start moving in the direction of going towards Tulsa. And then it was not just Black people that were going, it was Blacks and whites, but there was like I think it was 40 to 45 blocks of land that was purchased by African Americans, by, doctors, we're talking lawyers, we're talking teachers, we're talking all of these things. And it was pretty much a city within a city. So if you can imagine, you have your city, and then within that city, there's a neighborhood that's pretty much running with its own culture, with its own market, pretty much, because African American money was going to other African Americans. It was, we're supporting one another, goods, trades, and services, all those types of things. And it was pretty much the mecca of Black business being started, which coined the phrase Black Wall Street by Booker T. Washington, I want to say.
Yep. And then, they even had like the first Black-owned like movie theater was there. A lot of the very first Black-owned anything was in Tulsa.
Yeah. So we're talking some cutting edge things for people who are just now starting to feel that freedom, just now starting to understand this freedom. So that's what Black Wall Street is. And, we get to this place now where we're just now, like within the last, 5 years, the mayor is just now starting to uncover some of the things that actually happened to Black Wall Street, because there were like postcards that would take pictures of what was happening during the race massacre, but they would call it a riot instead of a massacre. So what happened was after this woman accused a Black man of assault, pretty much he was sent to jail, and he was, in court or whatever. And there were an African American group of people that came to protect him outside of this jail. Then there was a group of Caucasian individuals that came and were standing, and there was a confrontation between the African Americans and between the Caucasians. At this point, it started some real tension, and they came through and they just set fire to everything. They set fire to stuff. They killed what some are now saying is upwards of 300 people. So it wasn't just, not like, it wasn't just there were 10 people that were killed. No, there were hundreds of people killed. There were supposed to be mass graves and things. And now the mayor of Oklahoma or the mayor of Tulsa is looking into this. After so many years, literally all of the people that were noted in terms of being alive during that time, they have been recorded and saying, we want to see justice, we want to see all of these different things. They have all passed away at this point, and we're just now starting to have the mayor acknowledge the fact that there are mass graves. There's so much history that is pretty much passed over because nobody wanted to actually dig into what was going on because it was too hard, or it was too difficult, or it was, a waste of time, or it was in the past, or this or that. No, all of this is necessary because, it's not fair that there's a chunk of time, especially a chunk of our history that is so rich and so important for us. And now all of those people that were a part of that have been, skipped over and just chucked into a mass grave, and that's it.
Deleted. So where does that leave us as far as today? Me and I were thinking, like, is there any kind of areas like that where to consider to be necessarily like a Black Wall Street in America today? And couldn't really too much think. There was a couple of examples that we could think of. Bronzeville here in Chicago was always known as kind of like the area. Atlanta's always been a mecca. What was another one we had thought of? I think it was one of the kind of like the top two right there.
I mean, it was Bronzeville for me is similar, but it's not quite there.
No.
When we're talking this caliber of culture and this caliber of money, like Bronzeville is fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bronzeville is fantastic for what it is. If you haven't been to Bronzeville, go to Bronzeville. They got chicken and waffles out there, and it slaps. They got so many places, and there is a decent amount of African-American money, but then now we have more gentrification that's coming and making the city, it looks better, but it's also driving out Black people because they can't afford, what the new renovations that are coming. So that's the constant battle that we live in. So when we're talking about what happened in Greenwood, it's like Black people came and built it so we could afford it. Versus gentrification is big corporations are coming in and they're building it and they're trying to make a profit off of it, off of the backs of Black people at that point. And not just Black people, but their gentrification is just other people coming in that have more money. So
I think a clear thing to kind of determine that is what kind of how things kind of work in that. So the whole idea of having big businesses come into a neighborhood and renovate and modernize and whatever is to raise property values so you can to hopefully attract higher income, so you then could raise the tax income in the area, so you then could reinvest more into those areas. The issue with that is the people that currently live in that area are not getting help to actually raise their income, so they either can afford to still live in that area or still raise the tax income overall for the area to then reinvest into it. So then those people are kind of getting pushed out. So then how do you make a new area like Tulsa was somewhere? And real way kind of do that is to first go back and to reinvest into those people that are still in that area to kind of grow their income, grow their knowledge, so therefore they can reinvest in themselves and start growing the community themselves. It kind of really goes back to that is, I don't know,
I think it calls into question how cyclical it is because now we have to question the pay gap and we have to question the educational gap,
the pay gap, it's the wealth
the
gap,
generational wealth gap between African Americans and, you know, non-African people. So it's really cyclical in terms of, if we don't build ourselves, then we can't support ourselves, then we can't, you know, encourage our children to go get educations, because now they have somewhere to come back to and call home. They have stability there. And then, you know, so it's all built on top of each other. So it's not that, you know, other corporations coming in and doing things is bad. It's that we at this point still don't have the opportunity to continue to grow generational wealth, which is exactly what this channel is trying to promote at this point. And let's be clear, this is not bashing of any other race, ethnicity,
no,
your grind, your
history.
Hustle. Go do your thing. I'm here for all of that. But this is also a testament to the fact that African American people have not had the same type of backing and opportunity, especially when we look at Black Wall Street. We still, 100 years later, haven't been able to see anything even remotely close to what this is.
And that's what's amazing.
What's crazy.
That's the biggest thing right there. It's like, really, after this entire 100 years later, you still not one community that was able to rebuild from there. And then you have like redlining, and there's so many other things that have kind of happened after that has just made it so hard to kind of do. And that's the craziest part, is like, how do we do that now? And even as we were talking about it now, it's like, it's hard to do it. Yeah, you can say these ideas and say, hey, we need like our now affluent, like African American celebrities and other people now to reinvest in one community, but still it's like the legality of it and the go around it will be so hard to do nowadays.
I feel like now is the time to talk about some practical steps. Let's talk about some practical steps. So for example,
what can you do?
Roman and I have a friend from high school who is now pregnant. Congratulations to you. But as soon as she said that she was pregnant, everybody was saying congratulations, you know, blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm going to send you some bread. I sent her some bread, and it doesn't matter how much. And I said, you know what? Go open a CD in your child's name. Your unborn child. This is still in there cooking, right? I'm like, go open a CD for your child. And she was like, a CD? I'm like, yes, a CD. Go get a CD ladder started. And I was like, go start taking money and start putting it into a fund for your child immediately. And it's this type of practical understanding of finance, of wealth, and of generational wealth. Because I'm like, by the time your child is 18, if you continue to put money into this thing, your child will have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like,
ready to go.
Let's be real. If you're only taking $20 a week and you're putting it in, and we're talking about over an 18-year, 19-year, because the child's not born yet, you're talking about a foundational wealth that his or her counterpart will not have. And that's such a practical thing, but we don't look at things for long term. So we've been talking on this channel about investment in self and how important that is. This is an investment in yourself, but we have to start being okay with delayed gratification. You know, like, we're not going to be able to see the results of everything right now. We may not be able to see the fruits of our labor for years to come. Like, I'm doing the work that I'm doing now, not just for me, but because I realize that at some point I want to have children, and they probably gonna have some kids. And, you know, I'm buying a house now, and the house is not, it's for me, but it's for the generations to come. I'm like, I want to have something that I can pass on that's more than just a high five, good job. I want to be able to say, go to that school and do that because you can. Don't worry about how much it's going to cost. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about not being able to make rent or whatever. Go and do it. Just
and
go.
even if you're not planning on having children, and you're like, okay, I want to know what I can do, kind of just to set just generations up, because you can't take it with you. And if you're not setting up any like beneficiaries, yeah, you could YOLO all your money and be like, I'm not having no kids, I'm not giving it to nobody anyway. But then kind of see what you can do or what you do have as far as where you can invest that money in and let it just go somewhere, whether it's a nonprofit somewhere, whether it's to a community center or a church or anything like that, where you can kind of make those type of changes. And you'd be surprised how even like $1,000 can do for somebody, or even five, that like those little things like that can do a lot for some people or some businesses right then and there. I just did the math on just putting $20 a weekend over 18 years and just having just a 7% of compound interest in the market. And yeah, it's a lot of money.
How much we talking?
I'm
gonna start looking for a return at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my investment.
It was a few $100,000 because at the end, by the time you put it in there, overall, even over 18 years, you put in about 18 grand. But just over the interest that ends up compounding, you end up making $100,000, at least over $120,000 just on the accrued interest. So you could definitely make some money and set yourself up, or your next generation up very well off of that. So you don't need, like I said, you don't need to have kids to even get this done. Put it somewhere else, do something with it. Because I know there's a lot of people right now who don't want to have kids. And not to say even doing this, don't not say that you will not have fun with your own life. Putting $20 a week in there, or 2% of your income or whatever, into a 529 plan or some type of long-term play is not going to hurt your day-to-day spending, or going on vacation, or going to a concert, or doing these things. You still have fun with your life. You're just now setting up for the future for yourself as well. And that right there is going to help everyone else out. It's going to help everyone behind you out a little bit. It's going to help push us up even more.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that this is not just for Black people at this point, you know, like, for everybody else that's watching this, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Y'all can do stuff too. You know what I mean? Like, go learn about this. Watch the videos. Watch this video, like, share, and subscribe. Send it to somebody that you know. But take a look at the history. Educate yourself. Educate people that are around you, because you have more of an impact than I'm gonna have. Here's why: they know you, and they don't know me. You know, like people that know each other are more. They're more apt to listen to that person. They have trust. They confide in one another. All of that. They don't know me. So use your voice, go support Black business wherever that may be throughout the year at all times.
That's the one thing we will ask today on Juneteenth is whatever African-American Black business that you have in your area, just support them, or order some food from them, go into a shop, buy a trinket, buy a shirt, go online on Instagram. There's tons of them on there, on websites. Order something, whatever it may be, art, whatever you see, but invest in that.
And then, like, one of the bigger things that you can do, and this one's tough. This is tough, but call out and speak on injustice when you see it. This is not just a fight for us. This is just a fight for equality in general. So it's tough, being who we are, looking like we do. There's only so much that I can do, that I can say, but there's still injustice. There's still massacres. Like, that's the thing. If you think about, this is a massacre because it was 300 people at one time, but how many thousands have been over the last 100 years?
Yeah.
How many have been within the last 10 years? I mean, and then when you talk about the number of people that are now in jail and not slaves, like, there's too many dynamics.
There's a lot of things.
There's too much that we can go into. Lot. And it's like, jail and our system of jailing is the newfound slavery. Like, when you think about these things, it's difficult. Yeah, it makes your stomach hurt a little bit, makes you feel a little bit strange. But you can watch this in the comfort of your car. You can do it. You can listen to it on the podcast, and it's gonna be light, and it's gonna be okay. But go to the African American History Museum in Washington, D.C. It is phenomenal. I've been there twice. You're gonna take your time. You will probably have to go a couple times because they have so much, and it's such an emotional investment. They have Emmett Till's casket with the actual sound that was going on, like his mother is talk. It's tough. It's tough. They have Harriet Tubman's garbs and like it's tough. It's a hard space to be in. Yeah. Take some time. They have a restaurant in there. It's all right. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's all right. It doesn't slap like that.
Smithsonian overall, yeah, man. Go if you haven't had the opportunity, it's all free to go up in there and see those exhibits. But you need to learn. Everyone needs to learn about our actual history. And
if you're in Chicago, DuSable.
Yep. There's usually just some local museums, but everyone knows the Smithsonian. Of course, Smithsonian is like probably I don't know if it's the biggest museum in the world, but definitely at least for American history at the very least. You can learn a lot there. They do, of course, have exhibits on all types of stuff, science, whatever. But for American history, for Native American history, for African American history, especially in this month as we have Pride Month, and we just came off of even was it last month or was it still in this month? For Asian hate and culture. But every time you see everything there, just speak on it, live on it, open up your eyes, get a little bit more woke. Start seeing what you can do with your voice and your dollar to make a change for yourself, for your community, for your future, for generations past, and let's do better. At this point right now, we've seen in the last year, the wealthy have done nothing but get wealthier and literally have accrued a few extra billions of trillions of wealth in the past year, whereas the middle class and still the below that have not. Savings rates have grown a lot, but now we have inflation kind of at our door. I know we talked a little bit here, not really to worry about it, but prices just shot up 5% over in the last month or so over the past year. And now we need to start kind of looking at those things and seeing what we can do and hoping everyone's been staying course on their budgets, on their saving strategies, on their investment strategies, and everything else there. Because times are going to keep changing and we have to go at those times as well.
Yeah, that's what's up. I ain't got nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, yo. Let us know. Please, on Juneteenth, go out and celebrate. Go out and support your communities.
Share this with a person.
Share this with everybody. Let us know what you guys got going on for it. Send us some pictures. Tag us in it at YBI if you want to. We'll look at them. You know what it is, everybody. We may be young, we may be broke, but we are always investing.
Always investing, guys. Till next time.
Hey everybody, thank you for listening to Young, Broke, and Investing. We just want to let you know that these are the opinions of the hosts. They're not meant to be the basis of any security purchases or investments. We're trying to give a little information out there for everybody and have fun and be safe.